British Columbia Institute of Technology acknowledges that our campuses are located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish nations of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh.
Good afternoon, I'm Sophie Hansen, and these are your news updates to 1:30. The Combined Special Forces Enforcement Unit of British Columbia says 2 people have been charged in connection to a 2023 drug trafficking operation. It says its investigation led to an execution of several search warrants in Richmond, Burnaby, and Surrey last summer. The unit says that led to the seizure of methamphetamine, fentanyl, cocaine, ketamine, as well as more than $79,000 in cash and drug paraphernalia. That's, quote, consistent with drug trafficking. It says the prosecution service, a 22-year-old man from Surrey and a 40-year-old man from Burnaby have been charged, but have been released on conditions ahead of their court appearances. Police on southern Vancouver Island say they've arrested almost as many impaired drivers in the last 8 months of this year than they did in 2023, in a concerning trend of people getting behind the wheel while drunk or on drugs. Statistics released by Saanich Police show that officers stopped 464 impaired drivers up until the end of August, compared with 468 arrests for the same problem, all in 12 months of last year. Chief Constable Dean Duthie says it's concerning that drivers continue to get behind the wheel while impaired and endanger not only their own lives, but the lives of everyone else in the community. He says the department will continue to invest resources into stopping this, quote, selfish behavior, end quote. A Mountie serving in Alberta's Rocky Mountain resort town of Banff has been charged with breaking and entering in a hotel almost 2 years ago. The officer is accused of breaking into a hotel room in the early mornings on October 2022. The room was reportedly occupied by 2 women with whom the accused had been socializing with only hours before. The charges were laid based on the recommendation of the provincial police watchdog agency, the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team. Constable Garrett Claxton was formally charged last week and released on an appearance notice. He's scheduled to make his first appearance in court later this month. Family members, community leaders, and dignitaries were on hand today to pay tribute to Assembly of Manitoba Chief's Grand Chief Kathy Merrick, who died last Friday. Merrick's casket was brought into the legislature for a closed-door ceremony this morning to allow for members of the public to pay their respects. Former Premier Gary Doer praised Merrick while at the legislature to sign a book of condolences.
Well, I certainly knew her, I ran into her early on in Cross Lake, and I knew her by her tremendous integrity and reputation since then, and as a person I respect a lot.
She was the first woman to head the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs in 2022. Now, police in Winnipeg are warning of fake taxis that are being used to steal banking information. They say vehicles with phony taxi signs on their roofs have been roaming high-traffic areas such as mall parking lots. Someone posing as a passenger then exits the vehicle and tells a bystander that the taxi doesn't take cash and asks if they could borrow their debit card. The card is then run through a so-called skimming device, and far more than the expected taxi fare amount is withdrawn. A Saskatoon teacher who helped a 15-year-old student after she was lit on fire by a classmate last week has been released from hospital. Saskatoon Public School spokesperson Colleen Cameron says the teacher is taking time for himself to rest and recover at home. Cameron says the school and division are looking forward to having him back once he's ready to return so they could recognize him for his actions. Last Thursday, police allege a 14-year-old girl at Evan Hardy Collegiate poured liquid on a 15-year-old classmate and lit her on fire. According to a witness, the teacher was one of several who jumped in to help the victim, but was ultimately hurt in the process and had to be sent to hospital. The girl set on fire is at an Edmonton hospital where relatives say she has long recovery ahead. A fierce firefight is underway in Southern California, where a number of massive wildfires have grown even bigger after a week of extreme heat. ABC reporter Alex Stone has more on how these fires are affecting those nearby.
When flames exploded overnight on what's called the Bridge Fire, they went racing into mountain communities like the ski resort town of Wrightwood. David Wilbert lives in the path of the flames and doesn't know if his home has survived.
My house is brand new. It was just put in September, so it's supposed to be fire resistant the way they built it, so we'll see.
But after a week of 100-plus degree heat and wind, finally cooler weather has arrived, which should calm the flames. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In more wildfire news, fires are blazing through the Amazon rainforest and all over parts of Brazil. As reporter Jacob Fraser explains, this is having an impact on not only those in Brazil, but also Brazilian Canadians as well.
According to Brazilian officials, due to crime and climate change, the Amazon rainforest and Brazil are seeing a record-breaking number of fires across the country. These fires are not just impacting those living in South America, but also Canadians who have family in the area and landowners who own land in Brazil. According to an Instagram post made by Racing Extinction, these fires are the size of Italy and 60% of Brazil is currently covered in smoke. In that same post, Racing Extinction also says that Bolivia has had to declare a state of emergency due to the raging blazes. Jacob Fraser, BCIT's The Crow.
And now Jacob joins me in studio. Jacob, what was the initial cause of the fire?
Thank you, Sophie. The fires have been caused due to climate change and crime. Historically, the Amazon rainforest has been too humid and wet for it to burn. However, a majority of these fires have been started by locals who are wanting to clear land in order to raise cattle to supply beef to China, the U.S., and Europe.
So then, who are the fires affecting the most?
The dryness has left the Amazon River at its lowest recorded level since 1902. There are more than 2 million indigenous people that depend on the Amazon River for food and transportation, and due to the fires, this has left entire communities stranded without food and water.
Thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are remembering the victims of the September 11th attacks. ABC reporter Karen Travers has more on the ceremony.
President Biden and Vice President Harris stood together at the site of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan Wednesday morning. They were joined by former President Donald Trump and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance. Handshakes between the president and Trump and the vice president and Trump. That encounter coming just hours after their contentious debate. No speeches at this event, just the reading of the names of those who died 23 years ago on this day, and the tolling of bells to mark the moments when the planes hit the World Trade Center and when the towers fell. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
In more debate news, a top city official in Springfield, Ohio, is responding to what former U.S. President Donald Trump said at last night's debate about migrants in the city. ABC reporter Stephen Portnoy has more on the reaction to Trump's comment.
In a video posted on Facebook, the city manager of Springfield, Ohio, rejects the notion that Haitian migrants in his city have been eating household pets. Brian Heck says that amounts to misinformation. While he says it's true, the influx has posed challenges.
These challenges are primarily due to the pace of the growth rather than the rumors being reported.
Heck calls the amplification of those rumors by politicians disappointing. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
The Palestinian ambassador to Canada says Ottawa has stepped up its efforts for Palestinian sovereignty in recent weeks. Mona Aburamara says Canada has gone beyond expressing concern to outright condemning statements by Israeli officials, such as when the finance minister suggested it would be justified to starve Palestinians. She also noted more frequent meetings between her delegation and Global Affairs Canada over issues like arms sales to Israel.
Before, I did not feel that we were anything near a step forward. But for the past month, I feel that there is this change. There is a conversation.
Aburamara says Canada has more to do, such as demanding the evacuation of all settlements in the West Bank that are illegal under international law. BC's police watchdog says one officer from the Vancouver Police Department could face charges in a shooting that killed a man over 2 years ago. The interim chief civilian director, Sandra Henson, says she found evidence that suggests one officer might have committed offenses in relation to the use of force. Now for some local weather, cloudy with some light rain throughout the day and a high of 18 with a low of 13. This has been your news updates to 1:30. I'm Sophie Hansen for BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikakane.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikakane. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.
Good afternoon. If I just sit here, would you listen to me just talk about the athletic world? I'm Nicholas Hauke with your sports update to 140. The Toronto Blue Jays currently lead the New York Mets 1-0 in the bottom of the 6th inning. With the series tied at 1 game apiece, whoever pulls away with this afternoon matchup will take home the 3-game series. Game 5 of the Mann Cup between the Victoria Shamrocks and the Six Nations Chiefs will take place tonight at Iroquois Lacrosse Arena. The Chiefs have a chance to bring home the cup tonight as they hold a 3-1 series lead. Trying to keep their sight and minds on a must-win Game 5, this is the Shamrocks' last resort to keep their season alive. Face-off is at 7. Michigan's Attorney General says records finally given up by Michigan State University don't reveal anything new about convicted sports doctor Larry Nassar. Attorney General Dana Nessel says, quote, "It seems sort of improbable, but that's the conclusion," unquote. Nassar is serving decades in prison for sexually assaulting athletes, mostly female gymnasts. Until this year, Michigan State was withholding 6,000 documents protected under attorney-client privilege. Nessel says there's no fulfilling answer as to why Nassar wasn't stopped long before 2016. Manchester United has reported losses worth 209 million Canadian in its latest accounts for the year. These losses come despite earned revenues equal to 1.1 billion Canadian. The Premier League soccer club, subject to a partial buyout from British billionaire Jim Ratcliffe earlier this year, has said one of the reasons for the losses were because of the increased spending on players. Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill fielded questions from reporters today regarding the recent incident in which he was pulled from his vehicle by police during a traffic stop. Hill told the media about some of his discussions with his family since the incident.
Talking to my mom and my wife last night, I told her, man, what I went through the other day, this happened at the right time in my life because the way I've matured, the way I've been handling myself, with my kids, stepping up as a father.
The incident continues to spark debate online. Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes says he won't endorse either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, even as the former President Trump continues to call Mahomes' wife Brittany Mahomes a supporter of his campaign. Brittany had liked, then unliked a social media post in August outlining the 2024 GOP platform. The Chiefs quarterback said, quote, "I want my place in my platform to be used to endorse a candidate or do whatever either way. I think my place is to inform people to get registered to vote. It's to inform people to do their own research and then make the best decisions for them and their family." The National Football League averaged 21 million viewers per game during the league's opening week, making it the most watched Week 1 in NFL history. Rita Foley has more on the numbers.
The NFL and Nielsen say that the per-game average on TV and digital platforms is a 12% increase over last year. 123 million people saw at least part of one game. That's the highest total for an opening week since 2019. NBC had the most watched game, with defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City's 27-20 victory over Baltimore in last Thursday's opener, averaging over 29 million viewers on TV and digital. Tom Brady's first game as Fox's top analyst, Dallas's 33-17 win over Cleveland, averaged almost 24 million viewers. I'm Rita Foley.
Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson said he was surprised by the latest civil lawsuit filed against him by a woman who alleges he sexually assaulted her 4 years ago. The woman filed the lawsuit in Texas, claiming Watson forced himself on her during a date in her apartment in 2020. Watson said he was unaware of the allegations before Monday. Watson said he can't be concerned with possible new punishment from the league. Coming up after the sports update, hear my thoughts on Watson and the Browns' decision to sign him back in 2022. That was your sports update to 140. As much as I'd like to stay, it's time for me to go home. It's getting too late and dark outside. Need to be with myself in center. Clarity, peace, serenity. I'm Nicholas Hauke. Thank you for listening to BCIT's The Crow.
Stay tuned for more on BCIT's 1680 The Crow.
Yet another sexual assault accusation has been filed against quarterback Deshaun Watson. The Cleveland Browns' decision to give up on Baker Mayfield and sign the trouble quarterback in 2022 is one of the worst decisions in NFL history. Since signing with the Browns, Watson has only played in 13 games because of injuries or suspensions due to his actions off the field. In those games, Watson has thrown 15 touchdowns for just short of 2,400 yards, 11 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 59, according to NFL.com. Mayfield has started 38 games, throwing 44 touchdowns for just shy of 6,500 yards, 18 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 90. Mayfield has remained healthy and found his game, leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the playoffs last season, and has had no issues reported off the field. Watson is a constant distraction, has been accused by more than 20 women of heinous acts, and when he's been on the field, he's been subpar at best. The Browns had a leader and the future of the franchise in their building with Mayfield, and they let him walk for a player that's more trouble than he's worth. Shame on you, Cleveland Browns. Nicholas Hauke, BCIT's The Crow.
Everything is changing to digital. Everything is online. People aren't just waiting for the 6 o'clock news anymore. People want their news right now. They want to be able to go onto their smartphone, onto the internet, and see the news that they want to see.
Vancouver is growing at, a really rapid rate, the Lower Mainland even, and with the tools that we're given here, we're able to cover all of that.
Welcome to BCIT Magazine. I'm Radhika Sikka-King.
In the program, they really leave it up to you. I mean, the help is there when you need it, figuring out how to use the programs like Premiere, Audition, and figuring out how to use the cameras. But it's up to you to sort of experiment and figure out what you can do when you go out in the field.
They brought candles and flowers to remember the student who lost her life yesterday.
Theresa May says the international community condemns Moscow.
They really make sure that you know the basics and you are able to put out a quality product.
I'm Brady Tretnero.
And I'm Radhika Sikka-King. Thank you for tuning in to BCIT Magazine.